All right, so get this. Imagine a city so into polo, they had over 17 dedicated grounds.
Wow, 17.
That was Hyderabad before India's independence and, well, today.
Pre-independent.
Yeah, pre-independence. And today we're diving deep into this fascinating history.
There's a lot of polo fields.
It is a lot. And we've got this incredible article by Abhijit Sen Gupta.
Okay.
And it's packed with firsthand stories from Siraj Attari,
Oh, what
a seasoned polo player himself.
All right, so we've got the inside scoop.
We do. It's really cool. So,
Yeah.
we're not just talking about some local fad here.
Right.
We're talking about Hyderabad, like competing with the best in the world.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. Like we're talking about, like you said, world-class polo in India.
So how did Hyderabad become this polo powerhouse?
Yeah, how they get so good.
That's what we're going to figure out.
Okay.
So our journey starts in 1877 with Vikarl Umra, a nobleman from the powerful Pega family. And he got an invite to Windsor Castle from Queen Victoria herself.
Fancy.
I know, right? Now, he was already a well-traveled guy.
Okay.
But something tells me even H.E. wasn't ready for what he saw there.
I mean, even being invited to Windsor Castle's got to be something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So Attari, in the article, he describes Vikarla Umra being absolutely captivated by this polo match that the Queen was hosting.
So he just saw it and got hooked.
Basically, he caught polo fever.
Polo fever.
Right then and there.
I love that.
But it wasn't just, a fleeting thing.
Sure.
When he got back to Hyderabad, he went all in.
Okay, so what did he do?
Like, we're talking importing 50 Arab horses.
Roll.
Bringing expert trainers all the way from the polo heartlands like Rajasthan and Punjab.
Oh, so like the best of the best.
The best.
Coming to Hyderabad.
At building world-class grounds. Like, he did not mess around.
So he's really putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah. Big-time investment, right?
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, why such a huge investment? Was it just, like, passion?
Mm-hmm.
Or was there something, like, more strategic at play?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because remember, right, this is the height of the British Raj.
Right.
So maybe Vikarl Umra saw polo as a way to, like, gain some social or political standing, within that system.
Oh, for sure. That's a great point. Like, It wasn't just about playing the game. It was about navigating, like, this really complex power dynamic.
Right, exactly.
And his efforts, they paid off.
Okay.
So the Paga team, with his backing, they actually won the Bombay Presidency Open Championship.
No way.
And guess who they beat?
Who?
A British team.
A British team?
They beat the British.
Wow. Okay, so they're not just playing. They're, like, beating the best.
Yeah. So that victory, it really put Hyderabad on the map.
It's a statement.
Yeah. Huge statement.
Yeah.
Not just in India, but internationally.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, British army units that were stationed nearby, they were, like, super eager to join the game.
Oh, interesting. So they're like, all right, we got to get in on this.
Right. It's like, it really challenges this, traditional narrative of the British Empire as, like, purely dominant.
Right. Yeah.
Here you have Indians not just competing, but winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, kind of flips the script.
It does.
Yeah.
And these weren't just any officers playing.
Okay, who are we talking about?
We're talking about, like, General Beauvoir de Lille, Captains Rickett, Charles Gow.
Oh, wow. So big names.
Big names. Like, major figures in the polo world.
Okay.
And it almost makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
If polo, at least in some small way, like, helped bridge the cultural divide.
Between the Brits and the Indians.
Yeah, at the time.
That's a really interesting thought.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Like, at least shows the power of sport to transcend these, like, political boundaries.
Totally. And speaking of big names.
Okay, who else?
Guess who else played polo in Hyderabad?
Oh, man. I don't know. Give me a hint.
Think British, very well known.
British, very well known. Churchill.
You got it. Winston Churchill.
Oh, wow. Churchill played polo in Hyderabad.
He did.
Yeah.
Lord Kitchener, even Earl Mountbatten, they all played polo in Hyderabad.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
There's even a letter from Churchill to his mother.
Oh, no.
I know.
What did he say? Bragging
about beating a native team in front of 9,000 people.
Oh, Churchill.
Oh, Churchill.
Classic Churchill.
But, let's move on from Churchill for a second.
Okay.
Let's shift the focus to some of Hyderabad's own polo heroes.
All right. Yeah, let's hear about them.
But to really appreciate them, we need to understand the handicap system first.
Okay, yeah, break it down for me.
So imagine a system
Right.
that levels the playing field so that teams with different skill levels, they can compete fairly, right?
Okay, I like that, yeah.
So in polo, players are rated on this scale of -2 to 10.
Gotcha.
And 10 is like the absolute best.
The top of the top.
Yeah.
All right, so it's like a ranking system.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So now, enter Shamirsa Beg. This is Hyderabad's most celebrated player,
All right.
with a near-perfect handicap of 9.
Whoa, 9.
9! He was considered like a wizard with the polo stick.
Wizard, okay.
He even got mentioned like in the records of England's prestigious Coronation Cup.
Wow, so he's like internationally recognized.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this guy's legit.
So what's really remarkable about Beg
Yeah.
is that his talent like wasn't just from, formal training and all that.
Okay, so where'd it come from?
He actually learned to play by dribbling a polo ball through the crowded streets of Hyderabad.
Wait, hold on. He learned to play polo
On his pony?
on the streets of Hyderabad.
Yes.
Like dodging people and stuff.
Dodging bullet carts,
Yeah.
vendors.
That's insane.
I know, right?
That's some next level training.
Right.
Yeah.
So it developed this incredible like hand-eye coordination and spatial awareness.
Right, makes sense, yeah.
Which, definitely contributed to his mastery later on.
So what was his playing style like in his prime?
So he was known for this like lightning fast dribbling,
Oh.
covering the entire field just at a gallop,
Wow.
leaving his opponents in the dust.
Sounds unstoppable.
He was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But sadly, his career was cut short.
Oh no, what happened?
So in 1926, while playing for the Bhopal team, he had this terrible fall. His horse went down,
Oh man.
rolled over him, and he sustained a severe back injury.
Oh, that's awful.
I know, and he was only in his late 20s, early 30s.
So yeah.
Imagine the potential.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It reminds you that even in a sport as grand as polo,
Right.
it's these stories of passion, resilience that really captivates us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing, even with a short career, someone like Beg could become such a legend.
Right, for sure.
But, he wasn't the only one shaping Hyderabad's polo scene.
So absolutely not.
Yeah.
The sixth Nizam, Sir Mahbub Ali Khan.
Okay.
He was a massive polo fan, and he was instrumental in developing, the Malakpet race course.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
The place where they have horse races today,
Mm-hmm.
that used to be a polo hub.
Exactly. So back then,
Wow.
it was part of the Mahbub Manzil grounds,
Okay.
and the Nizam personally oversaw its transformation.
So it's like, it makes you wonder, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Was it just like a practical decision,
Right.
limited space?
Or was there a shift
Yeah.
in the cultural significance of
Yeah.
horse racing versus polo?
Right. Like, did horse racing become more important or something?
Possibly, yeah.
It's almost like a time capsule
It is, yeah.
of the city's evolution, right?
Right.
The land stays the same, but its purpose, reflects the changing times.
Absolutely.
But, speaking of changing times, I'm still stuck on the sheer number of polo grounds that Hyderabad had back then.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Bison Polo Ground in Secunderabad, the one near Begumpet Airport, one in Bolaram.
Yeah. And don't forget, the ones in Hyderabad itself.
Right.
So Falaknuma Palace, Fateh Maidan, Shamshabad, Masab Tank.
It's crazy. So many.
The list goes on.
Yeah, it's a lot. So instead of just listing them all out,
Right.
what do their locations tell us?
Oh, that's a good question.
Were they all clustered in elite areas,
Right. Reinforcing this image of polo as this exclusive sport.
Right. Or were some located in more accessible areas?
Yeah. Hinting at maybe a wider participation.
Right. Was it mainly for the wealthy?
Yeah.
Or did it have more a democratic appeal?
It's a really interesting question, yeah.
And with all these grounds, there had to be some serious rivalries going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Nizam's team, the Salar Jones team, the British Regiment team, the Prince of Berar's club.
Wow. Okay, so all the big names.
They were all vying for supremacy.
Wow. And you said the Prince of Berar?
He was serious.
He was serious about it.
He imported 50
Yeah.
top-class polo ponies
Okay, that's a lot of ponies.
from Argentina.
50 ponies. Okay, that's commitment.
Yeah, it's dedication.
But speaking of commitment, what about the efforts to revive polo
Oh, right.
in more recent times? What were some of the challenges these revivalists faced?
So remember Siraj Attari?
Yeah.
He actually played a key role
Okay.
in trying to bring polo back to Hyderabad,
Oh, cool.
along with individuals like Major General K.S. Bajwa
Okay.
and Maharaja Prem Singh,
Right.
they put a lot of effort
Yeah.
into keeping, the sport alive.
Okay.
In 1956, they formed the Andhra Pradesh Riding Club
Gotcha.
with, government support
Okay.
and kept the Hyderabad polo season going until 1958.
So was it like smooth sailing from there?
Not quite. There was a bit of a lull.
Okay.
And then in 1974, Major General Bajwa, who was a high-ranking Army officer, he really pushed for a revival.
Okay.
And Maharaja Prem Singh, the steward of the Indian Polo Association,
Huh.
he also threw his weight behind the effort, spent months in Hyderabad training young players.
Wow. So it really sounds like, these dedicated individuals, they
Yeah.
can sometimes make all the difference.
For sure.
Did their efforts have any lasting impact?
They did. The Society of Equine Art, established in 1972,
Mm-hmm.
they saw their polo team, gain official affiliation.
Cool.
It felt like, a real resurgence. Atari even organized seasons in the 90s.
Okay.
Brought in sponsors, renowned teams like the 61st Cavalry.
So it sounds like polo was making a comeback.
It was.
But why didn't it last?
Right.
Was it just the space constraints?
Well, I think...
Or were there deeper reasons?
Yeah, well, shrinking open spaces
Yeah.
due to, urban development, that
Yeah.
was a major factor.
For sure.
But I think it's important to consider, the changing social landscape
Okay.
of, post-independence India.
Right.
Other sports were gaining popularity.
Sure.
Leisure activities were evolving. And perhaps polo, with its historical ties
Yeah.
to the elite,
Yeah.
it just no longer resonated with, the masses.
That's a fascinating point.
Yeah.
It's not just the logistics of the sport,
Right.
but its cultural relevance
Yeah,
in a changing society.
exactly.
And it makes me think about all those beautiful old grounds.
Yeah.
Does any of them survive?
Well,
What happened to these spaces, once polo kind of faded away?
some grounds were repurposed, for other sports. Others were just swallowed up by, development.
Right.
Others simply faded into obscurity.
That's sad.
But imagine,
Yeah.
what if some of those grounds, were preserved as, historical sites?
Oh, that would be interesting.
Like a tangible link
Yeah.
to a bygone era, a reminder
Yeah.
of, Hyderabad unique sporting legacy.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how, a city's landscape, reflects its changing identity.
Sure.
It's like layers of history.
Mm-hmm.
And polo is just one layer
Yeah.
that's slowly fading away.
Yeah.
But before we get too nostalgic here,
Okay.
I'm curious, what about the appeal of polo itself?
Right.
What is it about this sport, that has captivated people for centuries?
I mean, it's a sport that demands, athleticism,
Okay.
strategic thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and incredible horsemanship.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's this certain, elegance and thrill
Okay.
to watching, these powerful animals and skilled riders,
Yeah.
working together at these high speeds. It's a spectacle.
It's a spectacle for sure.
Hard to match.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
But it's also a sport with a long and complex history, right?
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
remember back in the day, the fate of armies used to depend on the quality of, their horses and riders.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the intimate connection, between humans and horses, it gave rise to all sorts of equestrian sport. Think about chariot races, mounted archery,
Yeah.
even, the intense, almost chaotic
Yeah.
game of buzkashi.
Oh, man, buzkashi. I've seen videos of that. That is wild.
Oh, it's intense.
Definitely a far cry from, the structured rules of modern polo.
Exactly. But it just goes to show,
Um,
how deeply ingrained horses are in our history
Right.
and how those traditions have evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it comes to polo,
Yeah.
its journey from Persia and Central Asia to India is fascinating.
Yeah, and Atari mentioned that, one of the earliest forms of polo in India
Yeah.
was played in Manipur. It was called Saigal Kaingje.
Oh, interesting.
So did that ancient game, influence how polo developed in Hyderabad? Were there, any unique local traditions or rules that emerged?
That's a great question. It would be fascinating to, really delve into
Yeah.
the nuances of how polo adapted to
Yeah.
different cultural contexts.
For sure.
Did the game played by the Nizam's court
Right.
differ in any way from the
Yeah.
polo played in, British clubs?
Right. Totally different, potentially. Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
So, we've gone from Queen Victoria's court to the bustling streets of Hyderabad.
Yeah, quite the journey.
From legendary players to these dedicated revivalists.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a real whirlwind.
It has.
Of polo's journey in this city.
Yeah.
What are, your final thoughts on all of this?
I think, what stands out to me
Yeah.
is this, cyclical nature of the sports journey in Hyderabad, right?
Yeah.
A rise, a fall, and then those persistent attempts at revival.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder, will polo ever regain its former glory in Hyderabad?
That's a good question.
Or was it destined to become just a footnote in the city's, ever-evolving story?
It's a question that's tough to answer.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, the story of polo in Hyderabad, it's not just about a sport, right?
Right.
It's a reflection of changing times, shifting cultural landscapes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this, enduring connection between humans and horses.
For sure.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe this, this deep dive will spark a renewed interest in this kind of forgotten chapter of Hyderabad's history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe someone listening will be inspired to, pick up a polo mallet or, delve deeper into these stories of those who, shaped the sport.
Shaped the sport in the city, yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
And speaking of, forgotten stories, remember that ladies' polo team in Hyderabad?
Oh, yeah.
Atari mentioned them briefly.
He did, yeah.
But I'd love to know more about them,
Yeah.
Who were these women?
Yeah.
What was it like for them to play, such a traditionally male-dominated sport in that era?
It's a good question. It just goes to show, history is full of these hidden gems, these stories waiting to be unearthed.
Totally.
And maybe that's, a good place to leave our listener with that sense of wonder. Yeah. And a thirst for, further exploration.
Couldn't agree more. So here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Right.
What might it take to, bring polo back to its former glory in Hyderabad? Could it ever regain its popularity in this modern, urbanized world?
The big question.
And more importantly, how can we ensure that these, these unique pieces of our sporting heritage aren't forgotten?
They're important stories.
They are. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
Into the fascinating world of Hyderabadi polo.